Okay, welcome back to another exciting video on grammar. Last time we discussed the indefinite article the and the proper pronunciation of the in a quick review. If the is used before a consonant, like the car, you pronounce it the, as in the, duh. And if the is used before a vowel, like the, or the orange car, because it's used before the vowel, then of course we say the. So the car, the orange car, the orange car. Okay, the car, the orange car. So that's the difference, and that's what we talked about last time. So there's different ways to use the word the, or different ways you enunciate it or say it. Now what we're going to do is, this is a rather long section, so we're going to talk about when use the word the as opposed to a or an. All right. Now, when we talked about the word the last time, we also talked about what the word definite means. And we decided that the word definite means, or I told you that the word definite means has the word define in it. Okay, when something is defined, you know what it is or what they're talking about. Okay, you know what the word means. But in this situation, when we say a definite article, use the word the when you expect the person you're talking to know what noun you're talking about. So defined noun is you know when the noun is when you know what noun it is. Okay, so I'm going to give several examples. So if that confuses you, just be patient and listen and to some of the examples as we're going through it. Now this is a little complicated, so I would recommend that you read the section as well, because I'm just going to pull out some important information for you. So read along with me, and don't just rely on what I tell you in the video, because I'm only going to pull out some things. Okay, but the first thing that we need to know is that the word the, you use it for all nouns, whether it's singular or plural. You can have the car, or you can have the cars. So the pronoun, or the the article the doesn't change with the number of things you're talking about. So that's pretty easy. Okay, so that's the one, I guess, the simple thing about it. So let's move on. When do you use the word the? Well, the simple thing example is when the person you're talking to, you expect the person you're talking to know exactly which thing you're talking about. So the example they give is if you're looking for a map, and they say, I'm looking for the map. If you said that, you would expect the person you're talking to know exactly what map you're talking about. Maybe it was a map that was in the car. Maybe it was the map of California you just bought. But you're looking for the map. And the listener would have to know, you would have to expect the listener to know that which map you're talking about. Okay? So you have a specific map in mind. And not only do you have that map in mind, but then you have to know that your listener, or the person that you're talking to, also has that same map in mind. All right? So there's some rules that govern this when you use the word the, and these are guidelines that we're going to talk about. And it's about how to define a noun, different ways to define a noun to help your listener out, to help the person you're talking to out. Okay? So the speaker, or you, has a specific person, place, thing, or idea in mind. And when you're talking, you can expect the person that you're talking to, or the listener, to know which specific person, place, thing, or idea you're talking about. All right? So it says, so let us define, call a noun that meets both the above criteria a defined noun. So that's what defined means. You know, both parties know exactly which thing you're talking about. Okay? So both parties, as in the speaker and the listener. Okay? So you can do this in one of two things. You can use the word the if you've previously mentioned in the conversation the thing you're talking about. So if you've previously talked about the map, you can use the word the when you talk about it again. You can use it by modifiers or adjectives. So you can use the word the if you use other words to describe which one you're talking about. For example, if you're talking about cars, but then you say, "Ooh, the blue car," then you would expect your listener to know that the car you're talking about is the one that's blue. So you would use the word the because you modified the word car. So the blue car, that's using a modifier or an adjective, okay? Or by unique reference. And we're going to talk about what that means later because I'm not quite sure how to explain that to you right now, but I will in a second. Or by normal expectation, okay? And we'll talk about that in a second too. Okay, so nouns defined by previous mention. And this is an example, okay? He sent me a check for the items he purchased last week. I deposited the check yesterday. So the first time you mention it, he sent me a check because it's never been mentioned before. So you have to use the indefinite article with the word check, okay? But later on in the same conversation, if we talk about the check again, we have to use the word the because the check has already been mentioned. So the first time you use the noun, you have to use the word a. The second time you mention that same noun, you use the word the. Okay? Because it wouldn't sound right if you said this. He sent me a check for the items he purchased last week. I deposited a check yesterday. All right? Did you deposit the check he sent? Or did you just deposit a check? All right? So when you use the word the here, this specifically references the check that he sent. All right? He sent me a check. I deposited the check. All right? So that's a noun that you use the word the with when it's been previously mentioned. So both parties know which one you're referring to. All right? So that's one example. And I'm going to have you read through some of the other examples on your own. You can finish those. Oh, wait. Let's maybe look and see what they have. Oh, I guess we're only doing one thing at a time. Okay. It says, use of the indefinite article a signifies that the speaker is treating the noun check as a new information that the listener is not expected to have any previous knowledge of. However, once the noun check has been introduced in the conversation, the next use of the same noun is a defined noun, which must be used with a definite article. That is, the second mention onward, the speaker expects the listener to know which specific check is being referred to, and thus all future mentions of the noun check in this context must use the word the. Okay, so another example with this, I need to buy a map at the store. And then later on, I could say, hey, do you know where I put the map? Okay, so the first time let's say that we're driving in a car and I say, hey, I need to buy a map at the store, and I go in and I buy the map, and then I'm looking for it, and then I might ask you, hey, do you know where I put the map? Well, I've already mentioned here it's brand new information. I can't say I need to buy the map at the store because that would mean I need to buy one specific map that I have in mind. I just need to buy a map. All right? So I don't expect you to know which map I'm talking about. All right? But after I buy the map and I'm looking for that map and you already know that I bought a map, I'm going to ask you, hey, where is the map? Where did I put the map? And then I would expect you to know which map I was talking about. So the first time you mention something, you have to use the indefinite article or the undefined article a. The second time you mention that, or any time after that, you're talking about the map, you would use the. All right? So I don't think it's that confusing, but that's the way you use the word the. And we're only going to do one of these things at a time, I guess. So I think back here, we were talking about Oops, let me see. I think right here we're talking about different ways we're going to use it. So by previous mention, that's the first thing we're working on it. And so this next exercise is only going to be looking at ways that we previously mentioned an object, and then we're going to use the word the, or when to use the word the. Next video, we're going to talk about modifiers and then so on and so forth. All right? So let's take a look at what we have here for this exercise. It says, in the following paragraphs, many nouns are preceded by a blank space. If the noun has been mentioned previously, fill in the blank with the definite article. Otherwise, fill in the blank with the indefinite article a. So we're going to go through it. Well, let's do the first page together, and then I'm going to have you do the next ones on your own. All right? So it says, on my first trip to Manhattan, I bought a city map, because it's the first time I've used the word map, and try to get the sense of its geography. No. First time I mentioned sense, so, and tried to get a sense of its geography. I quickly discovered that every person there knows to find out where you are, you need to know two things: whether you are facing uptown, north, or downtown, south, and whether you are facing east or west. It says to find out, you have to go to a street sign or the street sign. Well, it's the first time I've mentioned the street sign, so it'd be a street sign. And then it says, I mention it again, so I'd have to put the. The street sign will tell you both street and avenue numbers. Well, I've already mentioned numbers, so I'd have to say the again. Do you see how numbers? So I know which numbers because I've already mentioned them. The numbers by themselves tell you nothing. They just define one point on a grid or the grid. Good question. Do they mention the word grid? Or can we assume that we know which grid they're talking about because we're talking about that map? Okay? So you decide, and you decide and work through this, and then we'll probably work on it in class because this is probably a little difficult. But go back and look at those things and see what you get, and maybe compare with your friends and talk about it and decide when you should use the word a or the. All right? Now remember, if there's a noun, if a and an are the same thing, this is used before a vowel, like the or the, and a is used before a consonant if you're talking about an undefined object, okay? So don't let that confuse you. It's the same thing. You just use one before a vowel and one before a consonant. All right, so go ahead and get that done. If you have questions, I want you to discuss this with your friends first, because you may not be able to hear the difference of when you use of how you use it. So I want you to discuss it, and then if you still have questions, come before class and I will help you out. And we're also probably going to do this together as a class after you get the assignment done, so you can work through it and check your answers, and we can discuss what's confusing. Okay, so the next video we're going to talk about when to use the word the by referring to specific nouns that you have modified, so your listener knows exactly which noun you're talking about. It hasn't been mentioned before, but when you're talking about, the black car, they know exactly which noun you're talking about, even though you never mentioned the car before, because it might be the only black car that is around. Okay, so you have to use the word the, because you expect your listener, or the person you're talking to know which car you're talking about, because you modify it or you describe it. Okay, so that's going to be the next video. So good luck with this, and I will see you in the next video. And remember, we are talking about articles. Articles are special adjectives. Articles, definite, defined articles, definite, or indefinite. Undefined articles are undefined nouns that have not been mentioned before. Okay, well, I'll see you next video, and good luck with this exercise.